have the pleasure now of introducing the Nature Conservancy, Kate Ireland, Director of Youth Engagement, and two of her protégés, Sean Schrader and Deborah Santos de Azevedo. Yeah, well, we're watching you, Shannon. Thank you for what you do. Please share your magic with us, Nature Conservancy, and have fun. Are you using slides?
I'm using that, yes, thank you.
Have fun.
Thank you so much.
And watch your time.
Thank you. Well, we're here in the unenviable position of being between you, lunch, and dancing, so we will try to make sure that we make great use of your time. My name is Kate Ireland. I am the Director of Youth Engagement with the Nature Conservancy, and I'm delighted to be joined by two of Florida's own today, Sean Schrader and Deborah Santos de Azevedo. They are both alum of one of TNC's signature youth engagement programs, and I'll have them share more about their experience and their work in a minute. By way of background, for those not familiar, the Nature Conservancy, let's see if I can get these slides to work. There we go. The Nature Conservancy is a global conservation organization. We're focused on combating the dual crises of climate change and biodiversity loss, and are really committed to achieving really significant goals by the year 2030 in order to appropriately address both of those challenges. We have, figure out if there we go. We know at the Nature Conservancy that core to achieving our 2030 climate goals, we need to recognize the impact that both youth education and environmental education can have on climate mitigation, climate adaptation. And we believe that that is significant. And I'm not alone in that thought, and TNC is not alone in that thought. There is a study from 2020, as you can see, that measured what the impact is of climate education on carbon emissions and how it can reduce emissions. And it was really compelling finding, discovering that climate education, when invested in properly, can result in very, very significant outcomes, greater emission reductions than strategies like transition to clean energy and electric vehicles. And I'll say that again because I think it's important. Research is showing that climate education results in tangible results like emissions reduction on par or greater than strategies like clean energy and EVs. And I invite you all to consider, I know we've heard a bit today about people's experiences with climate education, but think for a moment, what has your experience been in school, outside of school, as a young person? How did you engage with nature, with climate education? How did you become aware of these issues? Was it through television and movies? Was it in a book? Was it taking place in the classroom? Was it overhearing conversations from adults in your life? And so to dig into that proposition a little bit more, I'm going to turn to Deborah and Sean, our experts here today. Deborah and Sean are both alum of a program that TNC offers in partnership with National Geographic Society, and we'll talk a bit more about that later on. But Deborah, why don't we have you start, and then Sean will have you follow. If you can introduce yourselves and reflect on what your educational experience has been. When do you remember learning about climate? What was your experience in terms of learning about the environment in middle school, in elementary, in high school? Did it take place in school? Was it outside of school?
Yeah, so my name is Deborah, and I actually was born in Brazil, and I came to the United States when I was 3 years old. I lived in Florida pretty much the rest of my entire life so far, and so kind of being around the ocean and being around, South Florida, we have, some resources there, and I went to Florida Atlantic University. I majored in biology and got a GIS certificate, and I currently work at an engineering firm doing environmental research, environmental science, and I also work with a nonprofit called American Nature Conservancy, and I do a lot of our marine science, our shark research there. And it kind of all started for me, was in middle school. I remember my science teacher was talking about the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. And I remember that's when I started to think about how the ocean's so big, but we can impact it so much, and it's so much bigger than us. And so that's when I started to get exposed to climate change and just human impacts on the ocean. And thankfully I did have an opportunity to take an elective of marine science in high school, and that's what kind of started to continue to spark my passion for conservation. So it was early on, and it was also, I think, because of the resources I had in South Florida.
Yeah, I would say I'm Sean Schrader. I recently finished my MBA at the University of South Florida. I'm fortunate to be a lifelong Floridian and serve as a Global Goals Ambassador for the United Nations Association here in the U.S. For SDG 11. And kind of like what Deborah talked about, my involvement and engagement really began when I was growing up in school, learning about what climate change is, learning about local impacts through different courses like biology, really combined then with opportunities I had to get involved in my community through things like beach cleanups. And what really was a motivator for me was kind of the apathy that some people had in saying, well, there's not really that benefit from individual action when you can really make change, as we've been talking about today, through individual involvement, which can then lead to collective action. And something else I've really enjoyed over the years, it's always a stressful time, we talked about a little while ago, is hurricane season and the benefits that come from being able to learn information. When I saw John Morales earlier, I had to get a picture. That was a celebrity sighting from all of his expert advice over the years. But that's also a big thing for me. I'm very interested in that kind of stuff and hopefully disseminating information.
Thank you both. And those insights and understanding how you saw this in school, how you saw it on television, those I think really can serve to inform those of us who are working in the conservation field, who are working on climate issues. When we think about how we want to be engaging young people, how we want to be providing different resources, how we want to show up in different lived experiences for folks. So TNC has invested in a platform called Nature Lab. It is the way that we are trying to show up in homes and in classrooms for young people. It's free online content that we provide that is video-based, lesson plans, activity guides, and it is a way for us to bring the power of nature to young people, to classrooms, and to fill some of those gaps that we know are existing already. We look at this as an opportunity to meet people in multiple places. And so we have big partners who have access to big family audiences like Nickelodeon and Netflix. And then we have very educator-focused partners like Mizzen and Kahoot, so that we are really thinking across the spectrum of where young people are receiving their information. Building from those opportunities for young learners, we also want to think about what it is to offer purposeful engagement for college-age and early career professionals. We know that that is essential to fostering certainly the future conservation workforce, but also starting to develop leaders across multiple sectors who are going to know what it means to take action for climate wherever they're working and however they're leading in the future. We see data in recent years, and it's been talked about today, about the rise in environmental degrees and people seeking that. We also see alongside that data that is pointing to the rising skills gap when it comes to workforce that is able to address different climate issues. And we can identify that given that skills gap, we may be facing an issue when we try to reach these ambitious 2030 goals. We won't have enough people that have the skills that are able to meet those goals for us, or together with us, rather. We also know just fundamentally, and my background is first and foremost as an educator, how important it is to be offering meaningful leadership opportunities to young people so that they have an opportunity to stand beside us, to offer their solutions, to offer their thoughts and their ideas, and to be a part of this work. And it's against that backdrop that we started our externship program together with National Geographic Society in 2021, which, as I mentioned, Sean and Deborah are alum of, and they'll share their experience in just a moment. The externship is an online remote program. It's 8 weeks long, intended to build leadership skills among young people within the conservation field. We offer different topics. We've had freshwater, we've had marine, we've had data visualization and community conservation. Over the course of those 8 weeks, young people are engaging with an online learning platform, using primary resources from both TNC and NGS. They're partnered with expert mentors from both organizations and learning alongside them and 99 other young people from around the globe. A cohort has 100 young people in it and can have as many as 80 different countries represented within that cohort. Against that backdrop, they're also identifying a local conservation issue that is significant to them, digging into that issue, discovering solutions, and then creating a digital storytelling tool to tell the story of both that issue and that solution. And at the end, they are able to apply for seed funding to implement some of those ideas within their community. We have seen unbelievable interest in this program. We're receiving about 10,000 applications for every 100 spots. We have to date had just almost 1,300 go through the program. We're about to conclude our current cohort. We've had 160 plus community projects that have been funded with over $300,000 in seed funding awarded. So it has been really phenomenally exciting for us at TNC as well as National Geographic Society to see the interest from young people, but also just the investment and the work that they have done as a result of this program. So I'll turn it again to both of you. And Deborah, we'll start with you again, if that's okay. Can you share the basics of what the program experience was for you, and what part of that experience did you find most impactful?
Yeah, so for me, the program was really, really impactful in my life. So kind of like from the beginning, so like I mentioned, I was born in Brazil. So being an immigrant in this country, I was very limited on resources and scholarships, opportunities that I could to gain experience in the marine science field. Because as you guys know, the field is more pay to play. So if you're able to afford to take the summer off, to go work for free, and then that's how you get field work experience. And so I started to, like the passion sparked, middle school, like I'd mentioned and everything. And I was like, I really want to do this, but now I need a, instead of like, I was not able to go to the Bahamas to do research, stuff like that. I was like, let me look in my backyard and see what I have here. And I remember scrolling through Facebook and I found the ad for the externship. And I was like, this is amazing because it's meeting me where I am at. So it's giving me the opportunity to meet with students in other countries, the Philippines, Australia, South America, that I would never have been able to meet because of my limitations. And so through the externship, I actually found also out about the National Geographic Explorers Club program. And so I applied for the National Geographic grant because with the externship, I was able to speak with people from TNC and Nat Geo and kind of learn about their job. And I started to be like, wow, there's other opportunities that I did not know of that TNC opened the door and kind of showed me. And so I applied for the National Geographic grant and I got it. So I was named the 2021 Nat Geo Young Explorer. And with that, I started to think about my background. I was like, I would love to create a program for students who are underrepresented, who are not able to, like, never been on a boat before, never seen a shark, and get them in the water and do research. And so with my work in a nonprofit, we were doing a lot of shark surveys, and we were looking at like the population of sharks in the area and different species. And so what I did with my grant is I got students from underrepresented communities and I taught them how to collect data. We literally threw them in the water with sharks and they loved it. It was awesome. And they were able to do non-invasive collective data. And so they got a cool experience through that. And that is something that I really loved because it's looking back, like that's what I would have wanted, and TNC offered that to me. So to be able to offer that to other students as well was awesome. And it was just like a really good connection.
Thank you so much, Deborah. And Sean, can you tell us a bit about how the externship experience, if it did, impacted your academic or professional career? Did that play a role in that?
Growing up, my grandparents were always very, very staunch subscribers to the National Geographic magazine. So from a very young age, I was able to kind of see the great work of that organization, and then going into college, the work of the Nature Conservancy. And so when I saw this opportunity, I thought it'd be very exciting. But some of my friends and my classmates who I told them I had been accepted were very confused. They said, why would you have a degree that you want to get in business and then do something like this? And for me, the perspective I brought to this is that it takes every person to really make an impact, regardless of some kind of educational background. And more importantly, when you can weave different types of education together into this kind of work, I think is very, very exciting. And so for me, where I was at the University of South Florida in St. Petersburg, which is a campus surrounded by the water, I was able to do some research about the loss of seagrass in the local community and some of the factors influencing that. And what was really interesting and I think so valuable from that whole experience was the concept of storytelling, what we've already talked a little bit about today, but really in being able to communicate a challenge that's happening and understand then how that can be effectively showcased in unique ways. And I've found since the experience, opportunities I've had, whether it be to meet with legislators, to talk about this kind of experience in written form or speaking form, being able to showcase the stories that come with it is really impactful, because I think that, as you all know, there are a lot of challenges we face today, and when it's just yet another challenge of seagrass loss, well, that might not be as motivating to take action as when you can really see it. You can see videos, you can see pictures of marine life that are impacted, the water quality that's impacted, and then as a result of all that, how that can impact then everyday lives of so many people. And so I think that's been a really valuable skill that has helped me in storytelling, that I encourage now future applicants and hopefully future participants in the program to really take advantage of.
That's great, thank you. And I think I want to tie that idea of storytelling also to what we've heard today. I think we've heard a lot about hope and the loss of hope and the challenges with the pessimism that can be faced at this moment. And I think the investment in future leaders, the investment in your ability to be able to tell the story, to connect it to your communities, really gives me a lot of hope for the future and for what we can really achieve moving forward. We have probably time for just 1 or 2 questions, and then I promise we will not stand between you and lunch any longer. But I don't know if anybody, I see one hand here. Perfect.
For students currently interested in the program, what do we tell them to put in their application that would make them stand out?
So the question is, if you have a student that is interested in applying to the externship, what makes them a standout? The externship was purposely designed to remove barriers, so they do not need to be engaged in any education program currently. The enrollment is not a requirement. It's good to make them aware that we do provide a stipend of $500 to every participant to offset any opportunity cost. And we are really looking for a wide variety of experiences, but on the whole, we are looking for people very early in their conservation and climate journey. We want this to be a first step. We want this to be an opportunity for them to really begin to learn and make those connections. And so the thing that will make an application stand out the most is really a desire to think broadly about this and think about how it will apply to their future career, their future ambitions, and those don't have to be, we're not trying to make an army of TNCers with this program by any means. It's really thinking about how does this apply to their life and their journey as they see it now. That's really what we're looking for first and foremost. Okay, we have to wrap it up. We are getting to go to lunch, so thank you all so much.